So our last speaker of this session comes also from Scotland, Professor Joyce Tait, who will speak about action-focused interdisciplinary research, its role in academia. Please, Joyce, the floor is yours. I don't think we can hear you at the moment. Is there, or is it just in the room?
Am I unmuted now?
Now you're on now. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm having difficulty uploading my slides at this end. I'm not sure what's gone wrong, but I wonder if you can forward the slides for me as we go through the talk. Would that be okay?
Yeah. Just say when, and
okay.
I can turn this.
Thank you very much. That's lovely. Thank you. Yes, I'm going to talk about an interdisciplinary career. I've had a very interesting career. I've been a kind of an academic nomad, following the pastures, going where I thought the interesting ideas were, and finding by hook or by crook some money to do the research I wanted to do. It's not to be recommended if you want to have a stellar academic career, but it's very much a recipe for an interesting life. And if you move to the first slide after the title, I'm showing you a postcard that my husband sent me for my birthday. Only those who are prepared to go too far can possibly know how far they can go. And I think that kind of characterizes my career. I've gone a little bit too far on occasions. I've usually managed to right myself and get back on track, but sometimes it's been really interesting in quotes. So I think of a discipline, and disciplines are absolutely essential for academic life. I'm not challenging that point, but I think academic life is a bit too focused on disciplines, and it's a bit like a security blanket for academics. You're faced with a problem, you know exactly how to tackle it because you know what your discipline does, what methods your discipline uses, and that kind of thing. So it's very much makes life easier for academics. It makes it easier to know what to do and when to do it. And next slide, please. My career history is about inventing your own security blanket. If you're being truly interdisciplinary, each problem you're faced with, you really don't know at the beginning how to tackle it. You've got to find a way of doing it in a way that will enable the interdisciplinarity to succeed. So that interdisciplinarity is working at the boundaries, finding out where the interactions are between different aspects of a problem, and working out how to combine them in order to get the best possible understanding of what's going wrong and what can be done to make it right. And so about halfway through my career, I came up with this triangular relationship, which I thought described what I'd been doing from scratch every time I was faced with a problem. I was working in chemical and life science industries and looking at the scientists themselves and how they were trying to get new innovations through to a market, looking at policymakers and regulators wanting to make it safe or sometimes wanting to make it happen with new policies for that kind of thing, looking at citizens and stakeholders and how they interacted with the other two regulatory people and the industry people to try and influence behaviour and influence the course of development of technologies. And on the left side there, there's a list of the different industry sectors I've been working in over the years. Next slide, which is titled The Innovator's Perspective. This is a general model developed looking at how to handle interdisciplinary questions about how products get developed by multinational companies and by small companies. And there's a business model value chain, and in the big green arrow, there's a surrounding innovation ecosystem with stakeholders, government regulators, IP regimes, models, markets, funding models, industry dynamics, all surrounding the system, enabling or disabling the course of development of the innovation. And that's kind of developed in my thinking and my group's thinking as a way of tackling complex problems from the perspective of the innovator. And then the next slide shows how we've tackled it from the perspective of the regulator. And if you look at this slide, then there's on the right-hand side, there's the triangular model again. Looking at the governance part of that model, you have with regulatory systems a way of controlling the development of a product as it goes through the process from a scientific research through to application in the market. And we've been looking at how regulatory regimes have ratcheted up the cost of innovation over the years. Now, this has been very interesting up to this point. We've been doing quite a lot of projects and in all those industry areas, and the end result of a lot of that was a lot of evidence that 20th century regulatory systems are not fit for purpose for today's innovative technologies, and a set of reasons why that's the case, and making the case that the UK could take an internationally leading role in setting and adapting regulations and guidelines and standards in a way that better meets the needs of 21st century innovation. So this was one of the big outcomes of a whole series of research projects and consultancies in different industry sectors, and we saw that happening across the board in many different places. So not so long ago, I was invited to join the UK Council for Science and Technology, which directly influences senior levels of government. And I led an initiative from them that sent a letter to senior members of the UK government saying that an initiative was needed that addresses the challenges faced by today's regulatory and governance systems to meet the needs of 21st century innovation, delivering better value for money, etc. I'm skipping some of this because I think I'm getting a bit too long on time. But this was seen as a currently unaddressed translational deficit and potentially a waste of national resources if you fund a lot of basic scientific research that could potentially lead to useful outcomes, and these outcomes don't happen, at least don't happen in the UK. Something's going wrong, and we were proposing that it was the regulatory system. And then the outcome of that letter was a very rapid response within 2 weeks from the UK government, setting up this series of initiatives to address this problem of regulation for the 21st, regulation for the fourth industrial revolution. The point I want to emphasize on this slide is the strategic horizon scanning function, which set up a body called the Regulatory Horizons Council in 2020. And then in 2021, I was invited, I applied to be a member.
Okay. Oxmela, thank you. So it appears that we have some technical issues. So effectively, Microsoft Teams just crashed. So so we lost our speaker for the time being, and we're back online.
So that's the end of my slides, but I want to just wrap this up by saying, you know, I've put this in there as a very rapid run through of a rather long career, looking at, first of all, at the industry sector, the pesticide industry, then following that through when the pesticide industry moved to GM crops, looking at this in a way that was highly interdisciplinary, and therefore getting insights into how things were working that other researchers weren't getting. But you know, as with all interdisciplinary research, you may or may not have an influence at the end of the day. And I think the extent of the influence that that research is having now has quite a lot to do with the fact that Britain is no longer in the EU. And that's very sad in lots of ways. And there are a few, very small number of opportunities there to do things a little bit better in the UK. But it's the length of the interdisciplinary career that I want to emphasise. You know, most people have a short spell in doing something interdisciplinary and then move back to their disciplines, often finding themselves at a disadvantage compared to their colleagues when they do. The real question is how we can foster long-term interdisciplinary careers in universities. I think that's the biggest challenge of all for interdisciplinary research. So thank you very much, and I hope I haven't gone over time.